New season, new episode. Let's rock and roll. Okay then, everyone, as promised, this is kind of like the mid-preseason episode where we're going to take a look at some of the transfers that we've made, how this next season is building up for us, and of course, first of all, we're going to go back towards last season and take a quick look at promotions, relegations, and what the hell happened last season towards the end in other parts of our planet. Premier League wise, as people remember, this ain't really going to be a surprise to most people. Liverpool won the league, and I think it just goes to show how unrealistic Football Manager is when Liverpool are winning the Premier League. No, but seriously, I'm not surprised that they have won the Premier League because this Romanian manager is just a thorn in my backside every time I play against him. That's England done and dusted, but as we can tell, we've got some new teams obviously in the Premier League this season. Wolves are one of them. Norwich have gotten promoted yet again, which isn't really a surprise, and Derby County as well have all gotten promoted to the Premier League, so they're going to be kind of interesting games this season. And of course, Hull, Fulham and Sheffield Wednesday, so basically the three clubs I think that got promoted. No, actually, so who was the team that got, it must have been Villa, right? So Villa got promoted last season, finished 13th and managed to stay in the Premier League. So Hull finished 20th, Fulham and Sheffield Wednesday also got relegated. Everton stayed up by the skin of their teeth on only 29 points. And Fulham, you might remember, their manager was Ryan Giggs. And yeah, he got the sack, unfortunately for him. So we'll start things off by taking a look at La Liga last season. As we can see, Real Madrid finished champions of that. Zinedine Zidane is still their manager, 2 points above Barcelona. Same old, really. Atletico just behind on 82. No real surprises other than maybe Villarreal starting to fight their way back into the top six in La Liga. Nothing really too surprising in terms of other stuff. It's nice to see Valencia starting to find their feet again, but other than that, probably kind of as expected, really. As far as Ligue 1 is concerned, surprise, surprise, PSG won yet again. 95 points. Easy peasy, really, for PSG. They're not really competing against anyone bar Monaco, who finished second place, 78 points. But again, you compare the number of goals scored by PSG as opposed to the number of goals scored by Monaco, it really does emphasise how bloody damn good PSG really are. France to one side, over to Italy. Now, this was really interesting. So, Juve obviously finished champions on 79 points, but Udinese, Lazio and Fiorentina finished second, third and fourth, and it resulted in teams like AC Milan, Inter Milan and Roma and Napoli. Roma and Napoli didn't even make Europe, so we are starting to see slow progress made by some of these smaller Italian teams. Obviously Udinese, a lot of history, Lazio, a lot of history. In fact, these three teams have a lot of history behind them, but on paper, really, you still kind of expect AC Milan or Inter Milan to be in their place. So interesting to see how the tides are turning in Serie A and how they turned last season. Bundesliga wise, we've still got the domination coming in from Bayern Munich, but what's really interesting is that they won the league only on goal difference, guys. 45 goals was their goal difference as opposed to Bayer Leverkusen's 38. Now, I'm assuming that their rules were based on goal difference. If not, it would have been probably then broken down onto the number of goals scored, meaning Bayern were always going to win the league. But you've got to feel sorry for Bayer Leverkusen, but who knows, maybe this season they might fight back and get revenge. Dortmund dropping down into fourth, which means that we could actually end up facing them in the Europa League. But again, Dortmund are kind of a team you expect to finish in the top three and be in the Champions League. They missed out on that third spot by 2 points. It was actually Wolfsburg that managed to nick that third spot in Bundesliga. So again, slow changes happening in Germany. And as far as Portugal are concerned, Porto are no longer the team that are dominating. Benfica have won the title basically since the start of the game. I think in real life, Porto is still the dominant team, but they've really struggled ever since the start of my save. Benfica obviously still a very, very good side, but you can see they are building something special here, winning the Portuguese league last season, and it makes you wonder whether or not someone can change that. But major leagues, I think that's it. If we are going to look at anything, we want to look at the European competitions. So we know from last season that, of course, Manchester United were playing Barcelona in one of the semi-finals. So if we take a quick look at the grand final of the Champions League, it was played at the Camp Nou. What? So the Champions League, UEFA Lona. What is this? So the Champions League final last season was played at a supposedly neutral venue at the Camp Nou, where Barcelona beat Atletico Madrid 2-0. I mean, if that's not a home advantage, I don't know what is. That's ridiculous, that. I mean, I understand it should be a neutral venue, but it really wasn't for Barcelona, was it? In terms of the semi-finals, obviously, Man United lost out to Barcelona. Jesus Christ. If I've ever seen UEFA Lona, that's it there. Bayern lost out to Atletico Madrid. Atletico Madrid, of course, still under the safe hands of Diego Simeone. As far as the Europa League is concerned, the winners, or the holders rather, are actually Manchester City. I didn't know that, actually. That's quite interesting. So if we take a look at what happened in the final, Man City played at Villa Park. Why would you play the Europa League final at Villa Park? Especially considering Villa Park just got promoted from the Championship last season. So, like, weird. Probably because a lot of seats, maybe 42,000. Yeah, I'm not quite sure how they decided that, to be honest. But good for England. Good for Villa. But yeah, Ajax reached the final, lost 3-1 to Manchester City. So even though Manchester City had a bit of a dodgy season last season, new manager came in, took over from, I believe it was Pep Guardiola, Vahid Halilhodzic. A bit of a mouthful there. And yeah, don't forget that we did beat him last season, towards the end of the season, if you remember that episode. Beat him 2-1. Semi-final wise, Arsenal dropped into the Europa League after probably flopping out in the Champions League. 5-4 was the aggregate score where they lost. I think Man City just about, well, I don't think they just about edged it. We know they just about edged it because they bloody won the final. And then AC Milan lost to Ajax. Credit where it's due to Ajax there, getting a massive win up against AC Milan over 2 legs. But yeah, I think that's it really. In terms of our pre-season though, some of you guys might remember from the last episode, we got given roughly 53 million quid to spend in the transfer window. Now, of course, we have not spent all of it. I haven't had time to spend all of it just yet, but I'll be brutally honest. A lot of people have been saying in the comments, and shout out to everyone that's been commenting, shout out to all the new subscribers. We've surpassed 500 subscribers. I think we've surpassed 550 as well at the time of making this video, which is unbelievable, guys. So, you know, shout out to everyone that hits the like button, who have already subscribed, who subscribe, etc., who comments. I'm glad you're enjoying the content. But yeah, what was I saying? So, a lot of people have been saying in the comments that what we need to really kind of like reach the next level and make sure that last season Europa League qualification and whatnot wasn't just a fluke, is to sign 1 or 2 world-class players and just build around what we've currently got, and I completely agree with that. So we looked at the Premier League table last season, and Lukaku obviously finished 17th, right? I get a 30 million bid, or no, it was like 22 million, sorry, bid accepted by Everton for Lukaku, not interested in entering contact negotiations with the club because apparently we're too small of a club, which is kind of poor, you know, considering how well we've done over the past few seasons, considering we're now in Europe. And it's not just Lukaku. I'm talking about players like Memphis Depay, who, you know, bids have gone in, teams have accepted, and they've not been willing to talk to us. Players such as, I'm trying to think of players off the top of my head now, but yeah, honestly, I'm on about big name players. This will have been a few days ago, so I can't remember the exact players. We'll actually be able to take a look at some of the players. No, they're no longer here. But yeah, I've been in talks or tried to talk and had bids accepted for real world class players, real world beaters who play for teams that aren't even playing in Europe, by the way. And they've just not entered contract negotiations. So it's been really, really difficult to kind of make that world class signing because even players that aren't world class haven't been willing to enter contract negotiations with us, which is kind of bad. And this is something I've spoken about a lot, and I think the reputation system of Football Manager needs a complete revamp because the way it works is just wrong. In terms of players we have brought in, bada bing, bada boom. So, yeah, as you can see, we got rid of a load of youngsters. Charlie Mulgrew and Craig Conway have both retired, and they've both become members of staff. Miguel Martinez, a regen we brought in last season. This guy has loads of potential. He's 18 though, and unfortunately we haven't been able to get a work permit for him. But I've sent him over to Arsenal de Sarandi, which is basically one of the best teams in Argentina. So hopefully he can build up a lot of experience there. He's definitely got the basis to become a very, very good striker. Just needs a bit more experience, I think. Mohamed Toure has been sent back to Belgium. He got his first Ivorian cap, but it's not enough just yet. He needs a few more caps, really, to guarantee a work permit for us. Now, in terms of his career, he scored 16 goals in 20 appearances last season, which was really good, especially when you bear in mind, obviously, that he was injured for a long part of the season. The other problem is, though, that he's injured again. So I'm starting to wonder, even though we've got a bit of a gem here, and to be fair, this guy had tons of potential, right? But these long-term injuries that are cropping up, bear in mind this guy's being touted as an ex-Didier Drogba. Are these injuries going to ruin this player? Not just for us, but ruin, you know, his career for the player himself. I don't know. He's not quite Premier League standard just yet, but I'd be willing to give him a go. No work permit, sent him all the way back to Belgium. The only thing I'm a bit iffy about is the fact that he's playing in the Belgium second division, and I kind of have to send him to Belgium because we kind of need him to, I don't know, get the nationality. He's happy to go back to Belgium. I think I'll send him back to Belgium for one more season, and then I'm going to try and push him towards a team in the top division in Belgium. He's got 1,268 days left to gain nationality, but I'm kind of hoping African Cup of Nations, because he is in and around the Ivorian squad, that he will make the African Cup of Nations squad for Ivory Coast, and we will be able to secure him a work permit. Gouffran has left us on a free. I thought you'd rejoin Newcastle there for a second. Now, he obviously won Player of the Season for us last year, but he's dropped down to 10 pace, 11 acceleration. Really good player. Good servant for the club, at least in my past 2 years, ever since I signed him after we got promoted from the Championship. But he came to me, had a chat, said that he misses France. So he's gone to Belgium for some reason. In terms of trying to sell him, we were never really going to sell him. No one wanted him, so we just let him go on a free. Ryan Nyambe has also left us on a free. Gary Lee Ellison has gone out on loan. Same thing with Kadura. He said he was feeling homesick as well, and he's now actually playing for a club in Algeria, which is probably about his level now. Really good servant for the club, I feel. Few assists and quite a lot of amazing goals. Amazing shots, if you remember, particularly in our first season back in the Premier League. He used to just smash him in from 35 yards, get some important goals for us, very important for us in terms of staying up that season. But we brought in much, much better players, so no surprise to see him finally leave. Let him leave on a free transfer as well. Again, no one wanted him. Lee Wallace was a player we brought in the season we got promoted, but that was before Augustinson came in, so we didn't actually end up playing that much. We've almost recouped the same amount of money we got for him anyways. So he's gone and joined Barnsley, who I believe are a Sky Bet Championship side. And yeah, that's it. We also sold Scott Wharton for 1.2 million to Sheffield Wednesday. Now, Scott Wharton, Blackburn fans will be kind of familiar with who this guy is, but good Championship player. But in terms of our progression in this save, we just kept loaning him out. You know what I mean? Because he was just not good enough for us. when we were in the Championship, even though he's obviously improved significantly now. And once we got promoted, he just wasn't good enough for the Premier League either. So sad to see him go, Blackburn fan as well, but you've got to do what you've got to do. So, in terms of players that have come in, Oriol Romeu has been signed. He was transfer listed at Southampton, and I was kind of looking for, if not backup for Tiote, because Tiote obviously isn't getting much younger, but someone who can push Tiote for that defensive midfield, deep-lying playmaker spot. And this guy was transfer listed, and I believe he's our man. Tackling really good, marking really good, decent in the air as well. Quite a big guy, quite strong too. Being Spanish, can definitely pass a ball as well. Good teamwork, good work rate, especially what you want from your guy playing just in front of the back four. And this guy's going to be pushing Tiote basically for that defensive midfielder spot. They're going to be rotated based on form. And I think when you consider we only paid $6 million for him, tried, proven and tested time after time again in the Premier League, I think he's going to prove to be quite a good signing for us. Next up, we paid quite a lot of money for this signing, but again, we were really struggling to talk to world-class players or really good players with European experience from the big teams in terms of contracts and so on. Niang wasn't really getting that many games at AC Milan. He was kind of sick and tired of AC Milan not really doing well in Serie A. Only got 14 appearances for him last season, so we came in and offered him 0.25 million for him. Very good player, 16 acceleration, 16 pace, can play anywhere in the final third of the pitch. Decent technically as well, good passing, good technique, good dribbling, can finish as well, not too shabby. Could be a little bit better for the amount of money we paid for him, but I think when you consider how tough it's actually been for me to talk to these types of players, to enter contract negotiations with these types of players, I think it's a good signing for us. We've got a few clauses, obviously, which are things like if he scores 20 goals this season and things like that, but I don't really think we need to worry about things raising all the way up to 23.5 million. So, and Bai Yang, good signing, I think, going to be quite an important player for us this season. Next up, we signed Carlos Alenia. Hopefully that's how you pronounce it. Now, this is a player that was suggested to me in our first season in the Premier League. He turned us down and went on loan to Sunderland instead. And as you can see, he's been playing in Serie A for the past 2 seasons on loan from Barcelona, which is not surprising really when you consider how good Barcelona really are. They finally transfer listed him. Physically could be a little bit better, but you look at some of his mental attributes: 17 composure, 18 determination, 17 flair, 15 vision. Really good, tidy central player. Technically brilliant as well. 18 first touch, 16 free kick taking, 16 passing, 16 penalty take, 17 technique. You can tell that this guy has come out of the Barcelona Youth Academy. The only downside is he's only left-footed, but he adds some much-needed depth for us in the middle of the park. Really good player. We can train him to play in the final third as well. And really, I think, guys, for only 2.4 million quid and 26.5k a week, I think this is going to be a signing that we'll look back at come the end of the season and think, wow, what a player. Last but not least, this was the only world-class big player that finally, bar maybe Yang, who finally entered contract negotiations with me. I've had my eyes on the transfer list, and Lucas Moura popped up, and I thought to myself, I've spoken with players who are even smaller than Lucas Moura, and they've not even bothered entering contract negotiations with me. So I put in a cheeky bid for this lad of 20 million quid. PSG accepted, and bada bing, bada boom, before you know it, he's become a Blackburn Rovers player. Really surprised that both him and his agent were willing to talk to us. But guys, what matters is it's finally happened, and I think this is definitely a massive signing for the club. Brilliant physically. I'd like to see him improve his strength a little bit, but that's not really too big of a deal because his other attributes certainly make up for it. We've signed him down as a key player for the next 4 years, basically. Only 26, 15 crossing, 16 dribbling, 16 first touch, 15 passing, 16 technique, 16 flair. This is the type, guys, of magical players that we need to really move and boost our squad to that next level. Very versatile, can even play up front if we need him to. This guy is going to be awesome for us, I'm sure of it. We're paying him a lot of money, but we're a big club now, in my opinion. We're competing in Europe. What a signing for us. And I'm glad that finally someone agreed to enter contract negotiations with the club. So we take a look at pre-season. We drew 0-0 to our under-18s and drew 1-1 to our under-23s. The reason why I'm not too fussed about them results is because it's pre-season and because I had the setting enabled that kind of like meant our under-18s and under-23s played against us with our own tactic. And because it was pre-season, I didn't really try and exploit and stuff like that. So it's more about building up fitness. We beat Preston 1-0. We didn't exactly make it look easy. We were, without a shadow of a doubt, the better team, but it would have been nice to see slightly better finishing. But again, we've got a lot of players like Frontini's, and I'll show you. So we've got a lot of youth that's come back that you guys might remember from previous episodes, who I've been trying out in pre-season to really see who I want to keep at the club, because I feel like if I can get them around 10, 12, 13 Premier League appearances, or even in the Cup, and keep them at the club, rather than roll them out and keep them where our good training facilities are, that'll help them improve a little bit more than if they went out on loan. So I'm on about players like Dan Puckett, on about players like Nuno Sousa. We might actually keep this guy at the club. He's a really good player, this guy, 18 years old. Players like Frontini as well. So, yeah, that also explains why some of these results have been a bit dodgy. 7-0 win against AFC Darwin. 6-0 win against Bamber Bridge. Let's bear in mind, guys, though, that these guys are basically non-league teams, but they're local. And again, for me, it's all about building up match fitness, especially when you've got a big squad like us at the moment. We drew 1-1 to Fleetwood. Not really amazing, given that they are a League One team, but you look at the match stats, yeah, they had one shot on target and somehow scored from it in the 86th minute. It was from a set piece. But yeah, I'm not too worried because it's pre-season. And then, this was really one of the big pre-season games I was looking for. So obviously we looked at Ligue 1 not long ago, and we saw that Monaco finished second in Ligue 1, and they are a Champions League side. They came to Ewood Park, and we decided to beat them 6-5. It was one hell of a game. I'll actually show you guys the goals whilst we talk about it. The thing is, though, that was most appealing was when you look at the match stats, we really were the better side and all over them. They had 2 clear-cut chances and somehow managed to score 5. They had 36% of the ball. They weren't a good team. They didn't play well at all, but our defence in this case just did not show up. Frank has come back. Now, in terms of our defence, this is something I didn't speak to you guys about. Callas, actually, just before our FA Cup final last season, asked to leave the club. And I completely forgot about it and left him in the squad. So, yeah, am I pleased with having him still at the team? Still in the team? Not really, but I'm kind of struggling to find a replacement at the moment. Danny Bath is still out injured. But anyways, back on point. So, yeah, Marcel Frank, I think we'll use him a little bit more this season, particularly now that Mulgrew has retired. Not quite sure what we're going to do with Darrell Lenihan. I'd like to keep him at the club. I actually did transfer list him, and he asked to stay at the club. I told him he might not play too much, but he said he wanted to stay at the club. So I'm happy to keep him on his low wages, because even though on paper he's not a phenomenal player, he always seems to perform when he does play, so we might play him in a few cup games as well. But here we go. Here's the first goal. So Varela played in Yang, played the ball through the Monaco defence using that burst of pace, and 5 minutes in, Yang put us 1-0 up. I just realised that basically 11 goals in this game is going to be a lot to bloody commentate, isn't it? But it was kind of a shame, because I think we were like 2-0 up or 3-1 up at one point, and then our defence just basically went to sleep. But yeah, I hope I'm right. I can't quite remember. I played this about two days ago. Good head from Rog. You can already see how good Lucas Moura is. Played the ball to Nyang, and I think once tactical familiarity improves as well, little stray passes like that are things that will really become a thing of the past. So Varela to Rog, who passed the ball central to Alenia. You can just see how Tiote is kind of that water carrier protecting the two centre-backs. And that was a really good ball there into Nano. Typical Nano, really. He's one of them small, pacey strikers. And I do think he's going to become an important player for us this season. On paper, not phenomenal. But both him and Andre Gray, I think, are going to stay at the club. They offer us quite a lot of pace up front. And even though Andre, I think, won't be as prolific as he was in our first season back in the Premier League, I think now that he'll be playing alongside players like Nyang, alongside players like Lucas Moura, they'll hopefully give him a hand in finding more goals. And we also have like slightly more direct options up front, like Gillas and Danny Graham as well, who we can bring on when they're required. But yeah, there's a pace from Lucas Moura, whips the ball in, and yeah, as you can see, we're 3-0 up at this point. You look at the final result and wonder how on earth we managed to concede 5 goals, but it's complacency, I guess. Only 2 clear-cut chances for Monaco. Shame, really, but you can see how well we were playing, how comfortable we looked on the ball. We've got a lot of technical ability now in the side, particularly in midfield. Up front, a lot of pace as well that will always cause opposition players problems. But it would be nice if this actually sped up and bothered showing us the goal. So there we go. Direct ball. Bernard picked it up to Carrillo. Our right back kind of lost Bernardo. Mendy came on the overlap, whipped the ball in, and yeah, I remember this now. Really good strike there from Saint Maximin. Not a real clear-cut chance, but again, guys, this is why Monaco are going to be competing in the Champions League next season. And a part of me is really kind of hoping that, yeah, they finish second in League 1. They're going to be competing in the Champions League next season. They weren't exactly playing a weakened side, so if we can beat a side like this in pre-season, even though it is their pre-season as well, you know, they're not going to be completely up to scratch. It was really, really, really encouraging to score 6 goals against them. You know what I mean? The defence, I think, is something that will come with time. And in terms of training, we more than often train defensive positioning during the season as well. And even last season, I moaned a lot about our defence, but we actually conceded the 5th least goals in the Premier League. So it's kind of like, yeah, I was moaning a lot about conceding sloppy goals that came in the second half of the season. But were we really that bad defensively? I think there were points where we really should have looked to score more goals. And if it weren't for Nano kind of doing Andre Gray's job at certain points last season, that was probably really more our downfall. But the fact that we have like players like Mbaye Yang and Alenya now in midfield and players like Lucas Moura now in the team, I don't really think we have an excuse anymore for not scoring goals. And I think this game kind of sums that up, really. 6 goals scored against a world-class side, and you can see our defence was completely asleep. I've kind of been looking at Rudiger. I think he currently plays for Watford. I had a bid accepted for him, but I wasn't really entirely convinced in terms of actually signing him up. So you can see how these Monaco goals are going in. Kind of really poor goals to concede. Eyes on the right back a fair bit. I think at this point it was like 4-3. I couldn't really believe we went from 4-1 to 4-3. But yeah, quite a lot of goals. What do you guys think? Do you guys think I should really sign another centre-back? It's a bit awkward as well because we've kind of gone from playing wing-backs that take advantage of width to playing IFBs. So, yeah. And really, when you play inverted full-backs, you kind of expect to put a right-footer out on the left. And obviously, really good goal that from Nano. Good assist from Yang. And a left-footer out on the right. Obviously, because they kind of become like inside forwards, but as fullbacks. And the reason why we play with IFBs, again, as we progress into the season, we'll discuss our tactics a little bit more. The reason why I don't want to go into too much detail right now is because this is all kind of like still in progress, you know what I mean? But the reason why I felt like IFBs worked really well is because they'd sometimes come in and occupy some space that like one of our attacking midfielders would occupy, and it would then kind of confuse the opposition defence and let one of our front 3 go on a run like that. You can see Nano, the way he's scoring these goals down the middle is just really good in terms of moving into the channels, confusing defenders. And we've got really creative midfielders as well. So as long as you can play them passes through the defence, we're always going to end up with a lot of clear-cut chances. So here we go. Finally, Jesus Christ, we've reached 30 minutes already for this episode. And there was me saying I wanted it to be quick. Interesting game. We've got games against Forest, Bolton, and the big one against Bayern Munich coming up. Now, that one's going to be really interesting. Then the first games of the season are going to be what I'd probably consider as relatively easy games in terms of we should really be... Well, Stoke is actually going to be a tough game, let's be honest, given how well they played last season. I'm not quite sure whether or not they've made too many signings. Okay, they've spent 23 million, actually. They're going to obviously be competing in Europe with us as well. Benjamin Stambouli coming in, but not as good signings as the ones we've made, I don't think. So we should be able to beat them, particularly being at home. Wolves away, newly promoted. Paul Lambert, their manager, should be able to beat them and then get a win against Derby County. So that should be at least 6 points guaranteed. West Ham is always a tough game, but again, want to get revenge for what happened last season. And then United, we're going to try and get revenge for what happened in the FA Cup. So that's it, guys. In terms of transfers and finances and all that, thingamabobs. So the club's currently spending 1.16 million per week on wages, so we can easily kind of like mess around with this, but we don't really have that much to spend because of the sheer amount of money that Lucas Moura has cost us. In terms of players that I'm looking to get rid of, some of these youngsters will go out on loan. Sam Byram, I'm not really sure whether or not he kind of still has a role in the team. 34.5k a week, and to be fair, he didn't play for us that much last season. He played a role, but wasn't really, I think, phenomenal. You know what I mean? You've got to move with the times, improve with the times. So, like, as a manager, my loyalty ain't that great because I don't really stick to my players, but I know that you've got to keep evolving. Daryl Lenihan said he wanted to stay at the club. Hope Akpan is a player I'm trying to force out, simply because I don't want to keep players at the club and be paying them a wage, like 20k a week, if I'm just not going to use them. Because the problem with that is, you don't end up playing players, and like Lenihan, even though he says he wants to stay at the club right now and his morale's very poor, trust me, the transfer window will end and he'll come knocking on my door and be like, I want to leave. And then I'll somehow find a way to piss him off in our meeting, and it will just completely trump our entire team's morale, and before you know it, we're knocked out the Europa League. But that's going to be it for this video, guys. Sorry that it was quite long. Slowly getting there. In terms of tactically, I'm training my Zizou tactic at the moment. Our normal 4-4-2 will always be an option, but once the team are fully familiarised with these two tactics, and obviously the reason why I have the same tactic in twice is because that means they get familiar faster, and the reason they're pretty familiar with this one is because they've been playing it for the past bloody 2 or 3 seasons roughly. As you can see, training-wise, team cohesion, because we brought in a few players, let the players get used to each other, match tactics as well. But I'll more than likely be looking to eventually integrate either my not Klopp, Pochettino or Conte tactics into the mix, so you can find them on my channel. But on that note, that is going to be it, guys. If you like the video, hit the like button. Sorry we didn't see any games, obviously. To be fair, you've seen 11 goals, so I'd like to think that that's enough. Hopefully, we're going to make this a season to remember. The past few ones certainly have been. We still have room to manoeuvre in the transfer window. Shout out to Jake, who, yeah, I did say I was going to call one of my scouts Jake. Let me just double check your name, actually. Do this live. It just occurred to me now, because yeah, Jake Wood. So like, Jake always suggests loads of players. Have we got an English scout? Ian Atkins, right? Okay, all right, Ian. We'll just pretend that like you're 62 years old, Jake. So Jake Wood. Yeah, Jake's basically, he always comments on the videos, and he suggested a lot of awesome players to me. Most of the ones I actually liked from the list wouldn't enter contract negotiations, which is a bit shit. But, yeah, he does a better job than my scouts in the game do, so fair play, Jake. But, yeah, that's going to be it. See you next time. And remember to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and peace.